Warm welcome to you. We're continuing our conversation with the Department of Communications. We've got Minister Faith Muthambi with us today, and this is her first year in the job, and her department is talking about a new department and new possibilities, and we're exploring what those possibilities might be. Digital migration is one big project that they've had to deal with, and very soon, in the near future, you'll be watching this program on a new set-top box on a digital platform, and the SABC will have more channels. And I just want to get a little bit from the Chief Operating Officer, very quickly, if you could talk to us. What is the SABC going to look like in a digital DTTV environment?
I'm happy that Mr. Solimu Kwetze, the former COO of the SABC and the former CEO of the SABC, is in the house here. Just to deal with the issue of migration, what is more important is the picture that you see on television. It will be better pictures across the board. Whether you are from Kwakwa, whether you are from a vendor, you will see everything the same. The pictures will be okay. We'll even beat that multi-choice. Also, what you will saw, the quality of the sound, the radio sound, it will be even better. But what is important, when we migrate, you'll get everything that you want. All your radio stations. Even now, SABC, we have already started piloting that project. It's working very well. SABC, as we are speaking now, we are ready. We are just waiting for the department to finalize whatever that they need to finalize with other countries, because this is not South African issue, it is continental issue. So we are busy dealing with all those issues, Peter. But I need to deal with governance, Peter, if you give me that opportunity within the organization. You see, there's an issue here, and it's not about the SABC. I saw some of the municipalities are here. Yesterday with the board, we have been engaging the Auditor General. You know, when you talk about fruitless, wasteful expenditure, you know, we need to deal with that issue very carefully, because some people, they are making propaganda out of it. And I'm going to demonstrate that. You see, SABC were busy writing off the policies now, the policies that are not relevant and are not talking to the business of the SABC. When you write off those policies, technically, the auditors, they will pitch that at a value of 500 million. I'm just giving you an example. But to ordinary people, if you are talking about that value, you calculate it as maybe rents, 500 million. For people, it seems as SABC has 500 million rands. Or the municipalities, they have 500 million rands. Which is misleading, because that is the propaganda that one of the political parties, they are playing in that place, and government is not even sure to explain these issues, including the SABC. And I'm saying it is dangerous, because that propaganda, it is misleading. Okay. I even wonder whether some of the politicians in parliament, they do understand these issues that we are talking about. Because when they talk, they mislead people, some of them, not all of them. And there's one man from DA who always talk about these issues. He will pitch 3 billion rands when he talks, but he's misleading people, actually. It is not true. What we have been reading on the Sunday Times, it was worse misleading about the SABC. Because, you know, that is just a value. It doesn't mean people have chow SABC. Actually, from us, SABC is improving, because when you improve the policy, and your policy talks to business, which means next time you're going to do better. I just want to explain that animal. Okay.
All right, thank you very much indeed. Minister, Mr. Motsoeneng has raised the issue of governance, and this week again, this came up for you. We had a legal opinion coming out of Parliament suggesting that the dismissal of 3 board members, and you're a lawyer, so you know the law. How is it that we've got 2 different legal standpoints on an issue which should be simple? What is the story? Do you have the power to get rid of board members or not?
Can I say up front, I didn't dismiss any board member. I don't have the power to do that. That was the decision of the board of the SABC to do that. And then they've done that empowered by the provision of Section 71 of the Companies Act. I'll urge people to go and read Section 8A of the Broadcasting Act. That's the section that empowered my predecessor, the then Minister of Communication, Minister Dainapule, to register the Memorandum of Incorporation, to change the SABC from the Articles of Association to the Memorandum of Incorporation. So the issues that we raised there, it's good that I've since received the legal opinion. It was sent to me yesterday, and I'm awaiting for Parliament to call me to because it's based on, it depends on the type of the brief that was said. Because the issue that's being raised there is that there's contradiction between Section 15 of the Broadcasting Act and the Section 71.
So what happens when there's a contradiction between the Companies Act and the Broadcasting Act? Which one supersedes the other?
That's the issue, because with regard to this matter in particular, these matters are not regulated in terms of the Broadcasting Act. They are regulated by the Companies Act. So there's no contradiction with regard to that effect, because the Companies Act has been very clear to say there are certain, the SABC, there are certain sections of the Companies Act that don't apply to the SABC. When you read Section 8A of the Broadcasting Act, it mentions a number of sections that are in the Companies Act that don't apply to the Broadcasting Act. So with regard to Section 71, it's not one of the sections that has been indicated that it doesn't apply to the Broadcasting Act. Then it means it stands. They work together. So there's no contradiction. Okay. Provision, the Companies Act makes provision, and I want to indicate that was the decision of the board. The board has done so in terms of that Section 71, and it gives provisions what needs to happen once that process is done. So for the 3 members, they were supposed to have invoked the provision of Section 71 if they were not happy about the decision. But from my point, as a shareholder, I was satisfied that there was nothing untoward on the board members invoking the provision of Section 71 of the Companies Act.
So now we have a board that's down 3 members. I'm not sure if they can even form a quorum at this stage. How can we run the SABC with the board that's down 3 members?
It forms a quorum. The board of the SABC still corrects. And I can assure you, you might have heard them, they were meeting yesterday based on the fact that they correct. There's no crisis as is being sensitized that they don't correct, they correct. They are still correcting, forming a quorum.
All right, and then last question, when are we going to see an appointment of a CEO at the SABC?
The matter has been finalized, like I was indicating. We're still dealing with the due diligence part of it. Any time from now, watch the space, the CEO will be appointed. You know, you need to do all those due diligence issues that you need to form, because you don't want the situation where somebody comes in, that person is not vetted, then you'll have problems.
All right. Okay. Lawrence Bale is at table number 1. Lawrence Bale.
Okay. Thanks, Peter, the Minister and the entourage, and thanks, Minister, for taking off the ground and doing work very well. We are proud of you. Africa Month. Minister, and maybe in the SABC, we were expecting that maybe in this month there will be seen a more and vernacular languages speaking, specialized on the TV, so that it promotes the culture and our heritage, so that we see that SABC is playing that role. I think it might be a contribution that in some months, some years to come, let's make sure that the Africa Month, we do the African things in televised and everywhere, and also in the print as well. So we promote what is for us, for ourselves. So we must not be swallowed by other cultures. And then maybe the other issue to the SABC, we are not seeing more now on the televised of the legacy, the history that our freedom fighters played. I think freedom fighters, so that you know that the generation to come, they learn more from told So I think you can play a role in that regard. So our people must not forget where we come from till now where we are. So they also know, those are children, and more so that you must not forget, because it might be swallowed by saying, no, this government is not doing well, and so on and so on and so on, because we don't show what we do. But also to say to the SABC, we know that July month, it has been adopted as our icon, our father. But July month, it's also a month for cooperatives, worldwide. The first Saturday of July, it's an international cooperative day. The COO and the minister, I'm speaking here as the president of cooperatives in South Africa and the SADC countries. And Peter as well. We have never come into space, knowing very well that the cooperatives create massively the jobs for our people, gives our people hopes. So we urge you to come on board. And in July, we'll have our conference from the 1st to the 4th of July in the Northwest, in Tau. So that's one also issue that we want to do that. But also to conclude by saying, whilst we're promoting our culture and our heritage, there's a number of organizations who have also got the Black Jews. I'm also Black Jew. Bashabi, Barungu. I'm from the missing. And maybe you might know that we are also doing something about it. And September month, that's also we promote that. Every second Saturday of September, we do that. But we are saying, please come on board. The reason for that, Peter, is it's not for us not to be swallowed by the European and Western. So we stand up to promote what's for us. Thanks very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, so he's raised a number of points. I think between you and CEO, we can answer those questions.
Yeah, I agree. But you two must also come to the party. As the cooperatives, they must come to the party. It's not about saying SABC do 1, 2, 3, whereas they're not coming to the party. We know cooperatives is the responsibility of small businesses development ministry. Through GCIS, I think on the messaging part of it is a point that we are noting. It's an input, it's a point that we are noting, but also on the issue of cultural and heritage. Now with this multi-channel platform that we are going to have, because that was also about the issue of space. Because for Hlaudi to sustain themselves also, they need to run adverts. This is how the SABC gets its money. So most of the time of the television space is taken by these commercial adverts for them to be able to pay people like Peter, because they won't be able to pay Peter if they don't do that. But with this multi-channel program that's coming, there will be a channel, that will be dedicated to culture, education. So all those issues that we are raising, that's why now our major challenge now is content. Because with these multiple channels, we need to have content. That's where now your issue comes. We'll be able to profile the cooperatives that are doing well and put it in those channels. Because now we are much worried about the content. We're gonna have multiple channels with digital maturation. But the issue now is the content that you are trying to talk to us. But I can assure you, through GCIS, there's also a coordinated program. Like we try to observe all these months. The issue of the cooperative one may be to include it on the July month. It's a good input. We'll look at that. It's not a big trend smash. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, Peter, I'm not going to repeat what the minister just said now. But remember that when we talk about our history, our culture, the reason now we are in this Africa, remember that Channel 404, now we are in Africa, the whole Africa, 51 countries, which is very important because we want to tell South African stories and not to be told by other countries. We Africans, we should. And also we are working on not just the Africa continent. We want to go even beyond the boundaries to make sure that when you go to London, when you go to America, SABC is there. SABC is telling the African stories. That is what we are doing. And we agree with you about the culture, that we need to make sure that we have documentary and so on. But because you are a businessman, I'm very happy. Please partner with us and invest within the organization so that we can be able to achieve what we want to achieve together.
All right, okay.
But Peter, also remember, you know, when you talk about, because I need to deal with this notion of SABC selling archives to multi-choice, because that is very important. That is also a very misleading. what do you call it, notion, because I want to explain what is National Archives. National Archives means every citizen should have access to those archives. The scholars, the researchers, even anyone who is in this house. If you go to SABC now, you want National Archives, you will be able to get the copies that you need within the organization. The scholars, they come and do research within the organization. So we can't deny anyone to have those National Archives. And the National Archives example, we also supply to other broadcasters, like the late Minister Colin Shabani. All international broadcasters, they were looking for those archives. We can't say, hey, we can't give you those archives. Those are national archives. Because that notion is very wrong and misleading. And most of people who are talking about this are people with degrees. But I wonder what is happening about them. I wonder what is happening about them. But also, when you talk about commercial archives, because I want to separate the two here. When you talk about the commercial archives, example, we will be referring to Seven Dilange, you will be referring to Movango and Generations. Well, Generation is doing well now. It's doing very, very well now, Generations. But when you talk about commercial archives, there's no way where we can't license commercial archives. How are we going to pay those actors? How are we going to pay the production house if we don't license to other broadcasters? Because that is business of all broadcasters. If you see the soapies that people are complaining about, those soapies from international, what do you call it? It's commercial archives. We also get a license from those broadcasters to broadcast those soapies or dramas. So if you don't have knowledge, please don't deal with these issues.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's go to table number 22. Pumelelo and Tombela. Table 22.
Thank you, Peter. Greetings to the Minister and the panel. I'm representing the NFP, actually also representing the small parties. Small parties do a critical job within our community, which is to oversight, come up with programs that uplift the communities. What we've seen with the SABC coverage is that the coverage on the activities that are done by small parties, it's actually, I can put it in a manner that we badly to get coverage from SABC. But when there are conflicts within these small parties, then the message is out there, coverage is not a problem. So it sort of sends the message that SABC may look as if they tend to be biased to a ruling party. So, Minister, would you kindly tell us if maybe there are regulations that regulate the coverage of political activities or political parties, or if Mr. Motsoeneng can actually stand up today and say SABC is not biased, is not maybe a boat that is paddled by a ruling party to swing in its direction. Thank you.
All right, so are we playing fair in terms of representing all the political space in South Africa? Let's start with you, Minister.
I'll start on that one. There is also saying to say SABC is the mouthpiece of the ruling party. I was given stats from April last year up to April now, wherein I've been trying to look, we can share with the colleague from NFP. You find that opposition parties combined, they get a bigger share than the ruling party itself. So there are those figures. Then also, with regard to smaller political parties, because if you could be coming with an incident to say you brought it to the attention of the SABC to say as NFP, you are having this rally in particular, and it's a matter of public interest, such that SABC has refused to cover that. That will be another thing. But what I'm trying to indicate is that the SABC is a public broadcaster, as they say, and then it needs to also represent all the diverse parties that are there in the country. But in terms of coverage, it also depends on your activities. As a smaller party, I don't think you'll have these huge activities that you'll compare them with the ones that are. But I'll give you a typical example. Of late, EFF was the most covered because of maybe, I don't know, it's radicalism or militancy. I don't know what was it. But that drew public attention such that it obtained a lot of coverage. It also depends on what are you actually doing also as a smaller party. If you are visible, you have got programs, definitely the SABC will be able, that impact on the life of people, the SABC will be able to cover you. But let me allow the technical express to also deal with it to that effect.
Okay.
Thank you, Peter. You know, perceptions are perceptions, and it's good to have perceptions. Because I also have perceptions that some media, they are mouthpiece for certain political parties. That is perception, is debatable. SABC, we are a public broadcaster. We serve everyone. But referring to your party, I think it is important that you talk to us, because I'm not going to comment, because that is news, people who are dealing with the stories. But I always see you on television. I always see you hear you on radio. Because it is also important that you should know that radio commands more audience than television. But you know, people want to be seen on television. But radio is also playing a very critical role. And actually, people listen to radio. Wherever they are, even yourselves, when you go out now, you'll be listening to radio in your car. You don't have TV, I think so, in your car. But I think it is important that as political parties, if you have your views, come to us. Let us talk about those views, your views. But remember that we also have 404. If you look at the normal bulletins, you know you only have 20 minutes to cover whatever that you need to cover, because you have advertisers there and sponsors. So, but we can talk together, how do we resolve the issues? All of us, I don't think it should be SABC is favoring who, but the fact of the matter, SABC should communicate what government is doing. We're not apologetic about it. We should separate politics and government, because sometimes we combine. When you see the minister, you see ANC. When I see her, I see government, depending on what the minister is communicating on.
Okay. I think Mr. Liphoko, you've been a bit quiet, so I want you to answer this next question that's coming from Ndivhuho Mutswai, table number 2. Ndivhuho?
Minister and distinguished guests, my first, Minister, is to say job well done so far. However, we still have challenges. In fact, mine is with the GCIS. Today, I've lost opportunities within the department, not because what we are offering they don't like. Bureaucracy, supply chain remains an issue. I would like to find out from you what measures are in place to force these officials or these departments to give emerging black businesses a slice of the pie. I mean the digital mobile advertising. Thanks.
Okay, so SMMEs, government spend. He's saying you're not using them.
Ndivhuho, thanks for the question. I think what you really want to do is to look at what is our intention more broadly. So one of the key things that the GCIS was able to do in the year that just ended was to get a national communication strategy approved. And one of the anchors of that national communication strategy is the recognition that we need to start looking at non-traditional media. So we are assessing the space where we are engaging more closely with our partners in areas such as social media, online media, and other platforms, because we have this understanding that we need to broaden the mix of the communication tools so that we are accessing more and more South Africans. So that's the one component. I also want to confess that we are often frustrated by the constraints of our supply chain management policies. But the intentions of those supply chain management policies are to make sure that when government is using state funds, we are accountable to the people. So they have safety checks to make sure that we are staying within the side of being proprietary and managing our resources to the best of our abilities. What is key here is that we are making efforts. At the beginning of this year, we actually opened up we requested people to register on a database which is transparent. All suppliers can register on there, and they are assessed. Of course, if you are paying your taxes and your business is a viable one, there is no reason for us not to consider you in terms of doing business. So often what I find is that there is an impatience that we came through, we presented yesterday, where is the deal? But with all due respect, government is quite a large institution, and to make some of these innovations requires focused effort, but we are working on it, and you will see results.
All right, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there. These conversations, they get exciting, and then we run out of time, and as it happens. But that's where we're going to have to leave it, and I'll say thank you very much indeed to the Minister of Communications, the Honourable Faith Muthambi. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Ms. Phelisa Nkomo, Chairperson of the MDDA Board, thank you very much. The CEO of the SABC, Mr. Hlaudi Motsoeneng, thank you very much indeed. Acting DG, Department of Communications, Mr. Ndivhuho, Munzhelele, thank you very much indeed, and to you, Mr. Donald Liphoko, Acting DG, Government Communications, GCIS, thank you so much indeed for your thoughts and your contributions. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you to our audience here in Fourways, and most importantly, thank you to you at home, because all of this at the end of the day is for your enjoyment. So thank you very much indeed for being part of this conversation, and we'll see you at the next one. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.